Hello and welcome to our next talk of our Digital Loft. My name is Dennis Birgershausen, and if I may quickly introduce myself, I'm a senior consultant here at Cloud Germany. And I've been a full-stack developer and solutions architect for a little bit over 7 years now. I've worked in several industries: IoT, VR, AR, education, marketing, visualization, and of course, cloud technology. My main area of expertise are serverless, networking, and different as-a-service solutions. Whatever needs hosting, I can probably arrange it. Me personally, you can find me in Recklinghausen. This is a little bit north of Dortmund. And in my free time, I like to play games. Video games, board games, tabletop games, whatever is fun at the moment. And also scale modeling. But that's enough about me. Let's talk why you're here. Serverless. And why you should use it. I want to show you how serverless can benefit you and your companies. And to do so, I will be referencing a white paper done by the International Data Corporation in the year 2018. The IDC interviewed 11 somewhat larger companies with roughly 12,000 employees and a revenue of around 7 billion US dollars. These 11 companies came from the US, UK, and Japan and covered many different industries among communication, data analytics, financial, manufacturing, and more. Now, to talk why you should use serverless, I have prepared a short agenda for today. First, I want to give you a short explanation what serverless actually means, so everyone has a basic understanding. Then I want to show some cost savings you can achieve, how serverless can improve your staff productivity, how it can impact your operational resilience, how your business agility can benefit from it, and also how it can help you with rapid innovations. This is a lot to do, so let's get into it. First, what is serverless? Well, the term is somewhat misleading. Serverless doesn't mean that there are no servers involved. It means something different. And to explain it, I give you a short example. Let's say we have an internal application called To-Do API, and we are going to use it for our internal processes to delegate and to manage them. And to do so, we need a server. That's quite logical. But that also means in an on-prem environment, we have to manage this server, be it physical or virtual. That means someone has to update it, maintain it, keep it running, and if anything happens to it, replace it. Well, with serverless, we don't have to do that, because someone else is. In the best case scenario, it will be AWS. We still have our to-do applications, and we are giving it to AWS serverless platform, along with a simple config, and AWS runs it for us. It makes sure that the underlying infrastructure is always up to date, secure, and highly available. And that leaves us quite a lot of breathing room. What does that mean in detail? Well, in a classical application, you usually have around 3 layers. A landing zone layer, where people log in, authenticate, and general user management can happen. Application layer, where the actual logic is being processed. And the data layer, where all our data are stored. Well, depending on how resilient you want to be, this means you have to manage between 1 and 3, up to 9, or however much you want amount of servers. That's quite a lot overhead. Well, AWS gives us an example on its website how they would do it with AWS serverless. Here we don't manage a single server. Not a single IP, not a single router, not a single firewall. We need to explicitly manage and configure. Here we have Route 53 for DNS. We have Amplify and Cognito for user authentications and management. And we have the API gateway for a REST framework, which delegates the actual business logic to quite a few Lambda functions to add to-dos, complete them, delete them, and much more. All the data is stored in a DynamoDB table in this case, where it is persistent and secure. In this case, we don't have to manage a single thing about the underlying infrastructure. So all overhead is gone. Well, what does that mean for us? For one thing, it means cost savings. We don't waste money. Organizations that moved to AWS reduced the percentage of IT spent on infrastructure, freeing up budget to reinvest in other areas. This is done by increasing productivity of staff and business, by reducing infrastructure cost, and also risk mitigations. If we check it out in detail, we can see an average annual benefit per organization of roughly 10.7 million US dollars. This is done by an increasement in business productivity with 3.2 million, increasement of staff productivity with 4.6 million, reduction of infrastructure cost with 2.2 million, and risk mitigation is also giving us roughly 600,000 US dollars per year. If you normalize and average it all out, you can roughly achieve an annual benefit of 380,000 US dollar per application. Well, how exactly did those 11 companies manage that? Well, I will get back to productivity and risk mitigation. Let's check out infrastructure first. If we compare the 5-year cost of infrastructure of a data center with the AWS serverless platform. On average, the previously mentioned companies had to spend 16.8 million US dollars for its data center, 14.4 million for hardware, and 2.3 million for power and other facility costs. The same capabilities, availabilities, and usage is only costing us 7.8 million on a serverless environment. This is an improvement by 53%. 53% lower fixed costs. And this is just comparing the average pricing of AWS serverless and on-premise costs. If we combine that with the higher productivity, we can get a huge return of investment. Overall, the 11 companies managed to reduce their costs from 41.5 million US dollars over 5 years to 16.4. This is done by reducing the IT staffing and training costs from 20.7 to 7.6 million, infrastructure cost from 16.8 to 7.8 million, and we have we have a lower loss of productivity from 4 million to just 1 million. Overall, this is a reduction in cost of roughly 60%. And with an average time to payback of 9 months, we are looking at a return of investment after 5 years of 409%. This means, just looking at the costs, AWS serverless already greatly benefited those 11 companies. But there's more. Staff productivity. IT infrastructure teams and developers gained a significant increase in productivity by being able to focus on your business logic and wasting less time of things like platform integration and management. If you compare staff efficiency regarding infrastructure, you roughly need 10 working days to deploy new compute and new storage in your data center. You can do the same thing in 10 minutes with serverless. This is a huge increasement in efficiency. And the IDC estimates roughly 80% more efficient infrastructure teams in all 11 companies. This is done by a high degree of automation and also to increase your storage capacity, you just need a few clicks, not order new disks, go through internal processes, go through external processes, check the delivered disk, and put them into your servers. But also your development team greatly benefits from serverless. On average, the developer teams were being more productive by 33%. This is done by not only developing more applications per year, but also feature-richer applications due to a shorter development time. All developers can focus on your business logic, on the stuff that actually generates revenue and is important to you, and not things around it like platform integration, management, and updates. But serverless can do more. Serverless even has an impact on all your management time regarding IT. It's not a be-all, end-all solution. You still have to put some time investments for your infrastructure management, application management, and help desk. But due to the highly automated underlying infrastructure, you waste less time on these annoying topics. And this is done through self-regulating, self-managing, and self-repairing infrastructure. All on AWS side. And you don't have to move a single finger. Well, speaking of self-repairing and self-regulating, let's look at operational resilience. AWS Serverless allows you to use the AWS infrastructure, which is highly secure and available. And this reduces your loss of productivity with coming with unplanned outages. What does this mean? Well, if we look at the overall number of unplanned outages over the year, we can see a drastically reduction in the number of outages. This is done by due to the fact that you aren't a likely victim of ill fate. And sleep-deprived construction worker hitting a cable isn't affecting AWS as much as it could affect your data center. And also, if you suddenly receive a huge spike in demand of your web applications, serverless can simply deal with it, scale up, and meet the demand. Your on-premise infrastructure will have trouble doing the same. But AWS Serverless doesn't only reduce the number of outages, it also helps you fixing them quicker. Here I've displayed average working day with an unplanned outages happening after 3 hours. In your on-prem environment, on average, you need around 4.4 hours till the application is up and running again. Because your developers have to identify the problem, fix the problem, test their solutions, and only then can the application go back to the running state. Serverless helps you mitigate that by automatically resolving quite a few of the potential issues, reducing the mean time to repair to just short of 2 hours. This is an improvement of 58% till your system is up and running again. Well, if we look at the overall financial benefit due to that, we are looking at 71% less unplanned outages, 58% faster mean time to repair, and 74% less FTE loss. All of that combined creates an additional revenue of $140,000. This only includes the actual outages. This doesn't include the time the development team could use to be more productive instead of fixing problems. And it doesn't include other attacks from the outside, like a DDoS. An additional benefit of serverless is business agility. AWS customers have an accelerated time to market because they speed up the deployment and development cycles. How do they do that? Well, if you look back at my previous examples, how long it took you to deploy a new compute or new storage, this was just working time. If we are looking at in real time, we have 2 to 3 weeks between you make the decision to deploy a new server and the actual server is running. With less than an hour, in case of serverless, you now gain a near instantaneous reaction speed. Not only can you react faster to opportunities, but you can also scale down and back out just as fast. Meaning you have no risk of sitting on your investment. If you see an opportunity, you can react to it. You don't have to worry about making it in time. And in case you missed it or something, or it didn't work out as planned, you can simply go back with just a few clicks. Additionally, AWS serverless also scales inside your applications. Here, I want to give you an example with AWS Aurora. Aurora is a database engine developed and created by AWS. And you can run it in a serverless mode. Meaning all you have to do is tell AWS to run your database in Frankfurt, Dublin, Paris, or whatever region you choose. Then you can freely scale from 0 to 256 ACUs, Aurora capacity units. One ACU is roughly the equivalent of 2 GB RAM and equivalent CPU capacity. You can also limit these numbers. You can say, I want to always have at least 4 ACUs and at max 120. You're free to define the limits. And also, if you are saying, during the night, I want to pause it. I want to go back or scale down to 0. You're free to do so. You can also configure the system to scale down to 0 if nothing happens for half an hour, for 2, whatever your heart desires. But you're not only scaling compute, but also storage between 10 GB and 128 TB per instance. Of course, you can also limit those numbers in that scale, But everything between your limits is freely scaled and highly optimized for your usage. And speaking of optimization, let's look into that a bit more. Here we can see a web shop example I've created. Between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. we have close to 0 customers. Most people are sleeping. Starting at 6 a.m., the first people arrive at our website and the demand is increasing, displayed with the black line. Well, if you look behind the black line, you see red boxes. Each box is representing a server instance for our web shop. And we can see with higher demand, we need to add more instances. But each instance allocates overhead. The OS system needs a few resources. And in general, most applications need to have a complete environment. Well, this means we have to pay this overhead. If we are looking at the demand, it has a small peak roughly during midday and scales down during the afternoon, and with its peak in the evening when most people are done with working and are most likely to frequent our web shop. Well, if you look at the specific times where the black line is just hitting the upper limit of an instance and we need to add a new one, or in terms of low usage times during the night, we are paying resources for a whole instance that isn't needed. We are paying an overhead. With serverless, we are only paying and deploying what's below the black line. Because serverless allows us to only pay what we use, not what we allocate. That's a huge difference. This means we have a drastically optimized cost handling. And also, with the same compute power, we can now do more. This sounds very modern, so let's look into innovation. To do so, I want to explain the underlying philosophy or model AWS is using in case of serverless and in general, and is advocating to its customers and partners. The innovation flywheel. This way of thinking sees you experiment fast, listen to the results, iterate and learn from those results, and again, experiment with your newfound knowledge. This sounds very cruel and is obviously helpful for a development cycle. But how does it impact your business model? Well, we have already seen that serverless can speed up your time to market. If you think from here a step further, this means you have more dedicated time to innovate, to develop, to optimize, which in turn eliminates operational complexity. Because you're reducing overhead, you're stabilizing your processes and software, and this in turn increases your productivity. And with being more productive, you gain an even faster time to market. And already you can see how this flywheel can improve your whole development cycle, your whole life cycle. Of course, at one point you will meet a maximum because humans have limitations. But if you've reached that, you're already doing really, really good. Well, let's summarize. What does serverless do for us? Well, it greatly reduces your costs. It greatly improves your resilience. It has a huge impact on your productivity and makes you more agile. And all of that in turn makes you far more innovative. So with doing all that, you're already following the thought process of Werner Vogel, meaning you stop wasting time and effort on things not relevant for your business. Infrastructure is not relevant for your business. As long as you have access to some infrastructure that is well regulated, you can do just fine and more. So let serverless handle infrastructure for you and focus on your business. Well, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. And I thank you for your attention and listening to me.